My name is Eric Michael. I've sold over $5 million in sports cards, and we are here for episode 19 of my podcast, Beyond the Game, where I talk about anything and everything between sports, business, my personal life, just anything that's going on. And specifically, I like to center this podcast around sports and sports cards because that's what I do. I teach people how to make money buying and selling sports cards. But I want to start this off right now while I'm speaking. It's Friday, and last night the Dolphins and Bills played, and wow, I suck at gambling. I am 0-4 to start the season off. That was but you had to feel bad for Mr. Tua Tagovailoa. I mean, again with that head injury, I mean, just the guy can't catch a break. I mean, I think he's a great quarterback. I think he fits perfectly in that system with Mike McDaniels, but the guy can't catch a break. I mean, you kind of have to fault him too. I mean, you have head injuries. You know you're definitely not the biggest. You're not the most athletic. Don't go head first, especially you already had the first down by a yard or two. You just have to be aware of that stuff. I mean, he's like 4 or 5 concussions deep in the NFL. At what point do you keep going, right? Because at a certain point, right, your brain and head could only take so much, and he's obviously susceptible to these head injuries. And man, I feel bad, especially for like Tua Tagovailoa investors and collectors, along with Tua Tagovailoa, because I mean his value is probably just shooting down right now. Once again, though, it goes back to my whole theme of why you never hold sports cards going into the season, because most guys just don't end up performing up to expectations. But I'll get into all that stuff a little bit. I have a bunch of stuff to talk about here with some stuff that's happened in my life, sports cards, some success stories, and everything in between. So I want to start this podcast off with someone named, just going to say his last name. He may or may not be happy that I'm saying this. His name is Brock Meserich. He was the first student to ever join my program. This was about like June of or July of 2019. I first had the idea to start a program that teaches people how to make money buying and selling sports cards. And what I did is I created a Facebook group. And at the time, there's probably 20 to 30 people in that Facebook group. And I would go live about 2 to 3 times a week, and there was this kid that would join every single live. His name was Brock, and eventually he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, do you have a program? How much is it?" And at the time, it was about $900. And we came to the conclusion he was a broke 18-year-old not going to college. He worked at a food truck, or worked in a food truck, making $300 a week is what he told me from what I remember. And he was like, "Hey, I could pay you $600 now, and I'll pay you $300 later if this works." It's not how my company works anymore, but he was the first student ever. So I took him on board. And let me give you his little life story since then. So that he was 18 years old then. Now he's 22 years old. He didn't go to college, right? So he spent his college years, instead of going to college and taking all these bullshit classes and putting yourself into debt, what he did is he gained the skill of business, specifically sports cards. So the first year or two, he was making like 80 to 100 grand a year profit just flipping sports cards. I actually specifically remember, for some reason, Brock had this obsession with Zion Williamson, and like half the cards he would flip and buy were of Zion Williamson. I don't know why. But then what he did is he was making like probably around 6 figures a year with sports cards, and he parlayed that into a vaulting business. So Brock lives in Oregon. So if you don't know anything about sports cards, if you've never bought sports cards before, when you buy a card, traditionally, let's say you live in New Jersey, you have to pay sales tax, right? You have to pay 7% or 8% sales tax, whatever it is. However, there's vaulting services in Delaware and Oregon, because when you buy a card on eBay and you put in an Oregon address or a Delaware address, magically there's no sales tax on there, because Oregon and Delaware don't have sales tax. So Brock started a vaulting service where people would buy cards on eBay. Instead of shipping it to themselves in New Jersey or New York or Texas or Florida or wherever, you would send it to Brock. He would take a little fee that was much less than the sales tax, and then he would ship the card to you, or he would hold it for you. And that got him to the next level of business. So he took his sports card business, took it to the next level, kind of something similar to what I did with Major League Profits, except he created a vaulting service. And then he kind of got the itch and the bug to go beyond sports cards, because to be completely honest with you, sports cards is really an amazing way to make 3, 4, 5 grand a month. Like if you ever see my ads or me promote the idea of making money with sports cards, you'll never see me go out there and say, "Hey, you can make 10, 20 grand a month." Have I done it? And do people do it in my program? Yeah. But like It's not common. It's truly a side hustle to make an extra few $1,000s a month. And Brock got the itch, kind of like I did. He wanted to make, 100, 200, 300, $500,000, $1 million a year, and sports cards probably isn't the vehicle for that. So he did the vaulting service that made him some extra money, and then he started to get into the world of digital marketing and e-commerce and kind of the world that I'm involved in. Because a lot of what I do on a day-to-day basis, believe it or not, is really not buying and selling sports cards, even though I still do it. A lot of what I do is like operations and marketing and sales stuff and really running a business. And Brock got that itch, and then he got really into AI for whatever reason. He likes AI. He started posting YouTube videos about AI. And long story short, after a few failures, Brock now has like 16,000 subscribers on YouTube. You can go look him up. His name is Brock Meserich. And he gets brand deals. Like he gets paid like a $500, $1,000, $2,000 to post a video. And Brock is 22 years old, lives on his own, no debt, works for himself. He flips sports cards and makes these AI videos. And I just got off the phone with him yesterday. That's why this is all top of mind. And he lives in a nice 2-bedroom in Bend, Oregon, and he pays like $1,800 a month rent. And the reason I'm telling this story is because, one, I'm proud of him, even though sometimes I would give him advice and he's not the best listener sometimes, but that's a whole nother thing. But number two, it really goes to show that what it's like to invest in yourself. Like, I believe, unless you're like becoming a lawyer or a doctor and, you really need to go to school, that is the best way to do it. Like, Brock had tons of hurdles to jump over, and it wasn't all smooth sailing. I'm probably making it sound a little bit too easy. He had a few failed businesses where he got scammed out of $12,000, etc. But getting scammed out of $12,000 by your business partner, which is what happened to Brock, that's way better than, spending $80,000 or $60,000 to go to college and waste 4 years of your life. But Brock took the past 4 years of his life, and while everyone's graduating, all his friends, he's paying $1,800 a month in rent, making over 6 figures, flipping sports cards and doing these AI videos. And I was on the phone with him yesterday, kind of giving him some pointers of how to take it to the next level. Maybe designing something like an AI coaching program, kind of something similar I do with sports cards, except AI. So super proud of him, but it really goes to show, right, when you're 18 years old and you're young, you could go to college and you could do that route, but if you fundamentally think about it, which is why I think it's like the funniest thing of all time comparing coaching programs to colleges, is Brock got his start spending $600, even though he owes me another $300. So he spent $900 on a coaching program that completely propelled his life. Not that really sports cards changed his life, but he was introduced at such a young age that, whoa, like I could actually make money myself, make money online. And Brock knows 100 million times more about business than anyone would going to the best business school. Take it from me. I went to Rutgers University. I went to what would be considered a prestigious business school, whatever that means. And I own a business now with over 30 employees. And when I say this, I truly mean it. I'm not just saying this to, talk bad about colleges. I did not learn one thing going to business school. I got good grades. So I knew what was going on. I did not learn one thing that helps me today in business. I did not learn how to sell or market or lead people or manage people, or how do you fire someone? How do you hire someone? How do you actually make somebody successful, right? Those are the core components of business, whether it's a software or, marketing or sports cards like I do, whatever the business is, right? So that's a nice little success story. That's kind of like, that's why I think sports cards are just such an amazing vehicle. It's like, if I tried to show Brock how to start a digital marketing company at 18 years old, it would have went way over his head. But sports cards, this is why I think it's the easiest, best way to get involved in business, because there's no softwares, there's no employees, there's no clients. It's just you and you're flipping sports cards, and all you really need is your phone and a Wi-Fi connection, and that's it. That's it, and then you're off and running. So, in my opinion, once again, I think that's the right way to do life. So, congrats to you, Brock. 22 years old, crushing. He's only going to start making more and more money as time goes on. But wanted to do that story, share that story a little bit. And next up, some other things I wanted to talk about is, so someone was asking me, what's the most I've ever made on a sports card? I was getting that question a few days ago or a week ago, something like that. And I'll tell you the quick story of like not the most I've ever made on a sports card, but the most I've ever made on a sports card deal. And this is why sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Like that example I showed you of Brock, he got lucky. Somehow he found my Facebook group. Um, you know, it got introduced to the idea of sports cards with me. So that initial was, there is a luck component to it, but then everything after is straight, hard work and skill. Thanks to Brock, right? I didn't have anything to do with everything after the program. All he did was pay me money, and I gave him the information, and then he took the information, ran with it, made money with sports cards, and took it to the next level. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, and I'll explain to you why. So, quick story. This was October of 2016. Okay, I was pledging a fraternity. All right, I went to Rutgers University, and it's very hard to get into parties and to have a social life without being in Greek life. So I was like, you know what? I will pledge a fraternity. It's not really my thing, but I'm just going to sacrifice 8 weeks, do it because it'll be best for me in the long term. Now, it was right around Halloween, and you know how fraternities make you do all sorts of stupid things, and you get home really late at night. So I got home one night. It was like 1 or 2 a.m., and I had an accounting class at 8 a.m. that I never really went to be honest, but I was debating. Should I go on my computer for an hour or two and buy and sell some sports cards, or should I wake up and go to class because I haven't been to class in a while? Thankfully, I did not choose to go to class. So I went on my computer. I started going on eBay. I was, fishing around, looking at some sports cards. And for some reason, I still don't know why I did this today. I have no idea. I decided to go on Craigslist. I don't know why. No clue. And I found a lot of old vintage cards. And at this point in 2016, I was buying and selling sports cards for about a year at this point. I never bought a vintage card in my life. I knew nothing about vintage cards. I'm still not an expert on them. I know way more about modern cards than vintage cards. But I sent the picture of the cards over to my buddy Dylan. Dylan is the one who got me into sports cards. He was the one who's been doing it for a few years at that point. And I said, yo, what do you think of these cards? So they look interesting. Right? There were some like Mickey Mantles and Hank Aaron's and stuff like that. And he responded. He was like, holy shit, I think you found something good. So then we sent it to his friend who's an expert in vintage cards. He was like, yeah, these look good. So we called the person who had the cards. And the person who had the cards, his name was Jack. He owned some sort of sports card, comic book, collectible shop called My Mother Threw Mine Away in a town called Torrington, Connecticut. It's like Northwest Connecticut, I believe. And we were like, hey, we're interested. We're going to work out a deal. We want to come and see the cards. We're going to buy them. So we came up there. We got all the cash we can get. We had like $13,000 in cash between us. It was all the money we had at the time from saving up from flipping sports cards. And we went through all the cards. So like how it was is he had one section of the cards of like, there was like 100 or so cards of what he thought were expensive. And then there was another section of cards, just like all the commons or the junk ones. So we were going through both of them, and I was going through all the common ones and junk ones, and I could see he missed a few. There were like a few Hank Aaron rookies in there. There was a 1951 Bowman, Mickey Mantle in rough shape, but like, these were common cards. He put them in the common pile, and these obviously weren't common. So like I knew he was going to undervalue the lot a little bit, and I asked him, how did you get access to these cards, and why don't you want to get them graded and flip them? And he said, you know what? I'm almost 70 years old. I want to retire. And he came to these cards through an estate sale or an estate deal or sale or something like that. So there was a local family that had a grandpa that passed away and had all these old cards. They had no idea what to do with it. They took it to the local shop, which was Jack. My Mother Threw Mine Away was the name of the shop. You can look it up on Google. I believe now it's permanently closed. And that's how he came into these cards. And he wanted, so it was funny. So we're like, okay, we'll take the cards. How much do you want? And originally he wanted like $13,000 or $14,000, and me and my buddy were like trying to play hardball, and we'd like walk outside of the shop, talk amongst each other, come back, keep doing it back and forth, and eventually we came to the number, and we paid $11,500, which was a huge risk for us at that point. Like we didn't know that much about vintage cards, and like we didn't really know what they would grade. And at that time, we really never sent cards to PSA either. Believe it or not, at that time, like Beckett was the place to send your modern cards. So we didn't really know what would happen. But we were pretty sure we were getting a good deal. Like we were pretty sure. And one of the highlights of the lot of cards that I thought were the coolest cards. So there were 3 1953 Topps Mickey Mantles. So if you know anything about cards, the 1952 Topps Mickey Mantles, like the holy grail of sports cards. These were the 1953s. They're 1 year after his rookie year. However, this grandpa who passed away who had all these cards, he decided to take them to Mickey Mantle and get them signed. If you don't know anything about Mickey Mantle, so when he was a drunk in the 90s and the 80s and probably his whole life, to be honest, and he would do a lot of signings. So if you ever look at this, is an interesting side note. If you ever look at a Mickey Mantle autograph, there are the M's, at the bottom of the M's have this little loop in them. However, if you ever see a Mickey Mantle autograph without that loop at the bottom, like that circle loop, and it's just kind of a straight M like this, that means he signed that in like the 1950s or 1960s when signing autographs were not as prevalent. So a Mickey Mantle autograph with a baseball with his traditional old autograph with a straight M like this instead of those cursive loops at the bottom. I mean, I've seen those balls sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, whereas a regular Mickey Mantle autograph, if he signed it in the 90s or 80s, would be worth like, maybe $1,000 or $2,000. So like just a interesting side note. But these were Mickey Mantle's new autograph, the one with the loop at the bottom. But we had no idea what these cards would sell for. And we were pretty sure it was real. We asked our buddy who's an expert at looking at vintage cards, and he's like, yeah, these are real. So long story short, we went home back to our town in New Jersey. We separated all the cards we thought were worthy of grading, separated all the cards that were not worthy of grading. We took the ones that were not worthy of grading. There were probably like 1,000 or 2,000 of them. We sold them for about $6,000. Then we took about 100 cards we thought were worthy of grading, sent them into PSA. It cost us about $1,500 to grade every single card. And long story short, most of the cards came back like 1s and 2s and 3s. There was one 1955 or not 1955, 1958 or something tops. Willie Mays that came back at PSA 8, which was like pretty crazy. Like that's a really high grade. But those 3 1953 tops Mickey Mantles that were actually signed by him, we sold each of those for $4,000 each. Those graded, we didn't get the card graded, just the autograph graded. The autograph graded a 9 and an 8. It was a 9, 9, and an 8. We sold each of them for about $4,000. We just posted them on eBay for like $15,000 or best offer, and then we got a few offers of around $4,000, so we assumed it was worth about that. So right out of the gate, we sold all the common cards for $6,000, sold the 3 Mickey Mantles for $12,000. That's $18,000. And then we ended up piecing all the other stuff off and selling them individually. Long story short, we sold everything for just about $40,000. And we were about $13,000 into the lot between buying it for $11,500. And then it cost us about $1,500 to get it graded. And that was like my big breakthrough. Like that was like, whoa, at that time, so I split it with my buddy Dylan. So at that time, we profited, what would that be, like $27,000? Yeah, like $27,000 total. And I still remember to this day, I had I don't know, like $13,000 or $14,000 or something like that on my bank account. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm 19 years old and have this much money. This is fucking nuts. And naturally, like an idiot, I took that money and bought a Chevy Camaro because I always wanted a Camaro. But the important thing it showed me is that it's actually possible to make sports cards work and make real money from it. And then I really started to pick up my pace and really buy and sell sports cards. So that's the story of the most I've ever. That's probably not the most I've ever made on a card. That's close, but it's the most interesting story. So I thought I would share it. Some other stuff I wanted to talk about would be, so I should have relayed this with the Brock information. So I also find this interesting. So I taught this process to thousands of people. And even though I have like a formula, a system, a step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, this is exactly how to make money with sports cards. This is exactly what I do. Because I've taught it to so many people, you get these people that are way more intelligent than me that take things to the next level. Now, one of the things we teach in our highest level program along with sports cards is something called sports betting arbitrage, okay? So I know the word betting and arbitrage sounds like an oxymoron. It's not. But the way it works, basically, is you could take advantage of 2 different odds with 2 different sports books and find an arbitrage opportunity and bet both ways and make guaranteed money. So, for example, I know this will make sense for you guys who gamble. Let's say you have the Knicks playing the Lakers, and the Lakers are minus 130 and the Knicks are plus 110. The way gambling works is, even though the Knicks might be plus 110 on FanDuel, they might be plus 120 on DraftKings. They might be plus 125 on BetMGM. All these sports books have slightly different odds depending on how many bets were placed, how much action there was, and what happens is it creates discrepancies. So, for example, if you could find a game where maybe the Lakers are minus 120 and the Knicks are plus 135, those odds are flip-flopped, and you could bet a certain amount on each side. So you could bet on the Knicks to win and the Lakers to win. So obviously in a basketball game, it is guaranteed one of the two will happen, and you're guaranteed you can make X amount of money, usually like 30, $40 guaranteed on a bet. That's why we teach this, because it's an amazing way to make money. It takes like 20 minutes a day. We only teach it in our high level program. And it's like the easiest way ever to make a few grand a month. But I'm not here to sell you on this. I'm here to tell you a story. So we had a student. His name is Gene. He was doing it. He made like $8,000 in profit the first month. Okay. And Gene is a real estate investor. He makes good money, doing real estate. He told me that. I remember I had a call with him before he joined our program. Anyways, what Gene did is he took the sports betting arbitrage stuff and basically created an agency out of it. So what he does is he will have his friends make accounts, and he will do all the work and split the profits 50-50. So I spoke to him last week, or this week actually, and Gene makes $5,000 profit a week per week, and he fully quit his real estate gig and does it full time. Fucking nuts, right? It's crazy where people will take some of the stuff I teach and just kind of take it to the next level. But I thought that was interesting. Some other stuff. So in terms of cards I'm buying, so now let's get into like the nitty gritty and some stuff about cards. So the last card I just bought. So if you've watched any of my podcasts or my trainings or anything, you'll know that something I'm very high on, right, is I buy low and sell high. Buy in the off season and sell when the season's about to begin, because the hype goes up, which means the demand goes up, which means the prices go up, and you can make good money if you know what you're doing. The last card I just bought, thought I would inform you guys. So baseball is really cheap right now. And the way I look at baseball, especially when I'm buying baseball cards, is I ask myself, okay, come January, February, March, in spring training, who is going to have a lot of excitement? What players could have excitement? To me, in my experience, the players that have the most excitement are the ones that are going to get called up for the first time. Okay? Like Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, they're great players, but there's not excitement. Everyone knows they're great players, and that's it. The excitement is from the penny stocks, the prospects, the people that you don't know what's going to happen. And most prospects end up failing, but people cannot help themselves, and they get so excited and they'll overpay for these cards. So I was looking at the list of the top 100 MLB prospects, and I think an interesting name is Marcelo Meyer. So Marcelo Meyer, who's playing pretty well this year. He's in AAA. He's 21 years old. He plays for the Boston Red Sox. And, right, if you're 21 years old and you're in AAA and you play for the Red Sox, you're probably going to be, you're 21 already, right? So and he's a top 5 prospect. So you're probably going to get called up come this spring. And the fact that everyone knows he's going to get called up, there's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of hype, and his value will probably increase, right? There's never any guarantees, but this is how I make money with baseball. And you could do all sorts of other things like, kind of time the market and buy raw cards and get them graded and have them come back to you in January and February. Story for another day. But I bought a gold Bowman Chrome PSA 10 with a 10 autograph for about $2,100. I just found it on eBay. You can, honestly, if you go on eBay and look, you'll probably see the recent sale. I just paid for it. I think that card could go up to, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I sold it for over $3,000. We'll see what happens, right? There's no guarantees. Who knows? I could lose money on the card, but I think it's a great purchase. I'm looking for Marcelo Meyer. If you have any, let me know. Shoot me a message. I doubt you're going to give me any because now I'm saying to buy it. But yeah. Next up. So in terms of, let's go over some Q&A. Got a bunch of questions here. So I took these questions actually from my Instagram and YouTube comments. So I don't know who your names are. But Dior Rama says, what does 80 to 90% of comps mean? So I probably said this in a video. So what all the word comp means is sale. So if someone says to you, hey, what are the recent comps on this card? They're just asking, what are the recent sales? Comp is short for comparison. So like, what are the recent sales? And if I say I'm looking to buy something for 80% of comps, what that means is if a card sells for $1,000, I'm looking to pay around $800 on it. That's what that would mean if I said I'm looking to pay about 80% of comps. Hopefully that makes sense, Diarorama. Liam Countryman says, what NFL players should I buy? So while I'm speaking right now, it's early to mid-September, and the answer is none of them. Give it a few weeks. Give it like 5 or 6 more weeks because there's still hype and excitement, and a lot of these guys are going to shoot down in value. Like a sad example of it's like Tua, who got hurt on the last Thursday Night Football game, right? Like Trevor Lawrence played like crap. C.J. Stroud played okay. Anthony Richardson played good, but like Caleb Williams played horrible. Bo Nix played horrific. So like all these guys are going to shoot down in value. Most, not all. There will be 1 or 2 guys that go up in value, but there's no need to buy NFL players right now because why would you buy players when you know most of them are going to go down in value, right? Because the season just started. A lot of them are inflated. A lot of them are hyped. And what happens when things are inflated and hyped? They shoot down. Just how it goes. So none of them is the answer. Chief Digger, 5216. Where do you sell your cards? Do you sell them yourself or do you consign? 99% of the cards I sell are myself. And the best way to do this, so you'll hear me talk about this all the time, is by building connections, especially through social media or card shows. So when you go and sell a card on eBay, right, you have to pay these absorbent fees, like 13% in fees, which is like never any fun. But because I love to sell on social media, because when you do a deal on social media, someone's either going to pay you through Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, where you net no fees, or they'll pay you through goods and services, so they're protected, but there's only a 3% fee. So you're paying way less fees, and you're able to build connections, right? Like if I just sold a big card of Trevor Lawrence last week. Now I have that guy's contact information, and in the future, if I ever have any NFL quarterbacks or cards of Trevor Lawrence or whoever, I have someone to hit up, and he bought the card for $9,300. The transaction went smooth. He wired me the money. I sent it to him or mailed it to him, and he trusts me. Now there's a level of trust. So like it's just way easier to do deals when you know who the person is and there's a level of trust. Okay? So the best way to do it, so I sell most of the cards myself, almost all of them. And consigning is few and far between for me. And then I sell my cards on social media and to people who I've already done deals with. Hopefully that answers your question, Liam. Or a Chief Digger, excuse me. What are the best products for football or basketball? And that is Brandon8581 asked that. So the best products for football and basketball are these. So basketball, hands down best product is Prism. Okay, that's like the best overall, most liquid product. And also National Treasures is very expensive. And also Flawless is very good. But like the most liquid, common one you're going to be able to make money on is like Prism. Then right after that is like Flawless and National Treasures. But those are a little bit different because they're very expensive. Okay. But those are like the top 3. But like Prism is like the affordable, most common one. For football, the best one is actually, in my opinion, I'd say like Contenders and Prism are tied. And then National Treasures is also expensive, but it's also great. So like the difference between football and basketball, so Flawless for basketball, people love, okay? And people don't love Contenders as much. Contenders for basketball is like a second-tier product. Now it's actually flip-flopped for football. Football, Contenders is a first-tier product, and Flawless is kind of second-tier. They're both still really good, but people just love Flawless for basketball. Why? I don't know. It's just how it is. Like, I don't really have an answer for you. But those are the best products. Hopefully, that answers your question. Jeremy says, I got a little money, around $5,000. I would like to invest maybe 60% in long-term sealed and maybe 40% in flipped singles. Any advice on sealed products that will go long-term? Don't even have to be specific. Thank you for the video. Thank you for your videos. They don't go unappreciated. Well, Jeremy, thank you for that. So I'll give you like 2 answers to your question. So number 1, the best sealed products to buy are actually the ones I probably just said. So like Contenders, Bowman Chrome is really good. Like Bowman Chrome's really good, honestly, for long-term sealed. Most sealed products just go up in time. Like you kind of have to get lucky. Like for example, like 2009 Bowman Chrome, like there's nobody in there except for Mike Trout. But because Mike Trout's a superstar, it's worth a lot of money. 2018 Bowman Chrome, Shohei Ohtani, because there's one superstar. You kind of have to get lucky and pray that there's like one really good guy. But it only goes up in value because the sealed wax, the supply only goes down because people open it, right? It's pretty common sense. So like if you were looking for baseball, I'd do Bowman Chrome. Football, I would do Contenders. Basketball, National Treasures if you could afford it. If not, Flawless if you could afford it. If not, Prism. Those are like, if I was investing long term in sealed. But like what I would say, if your goal is to make money, which like I'm assuming that's why you're asking that question, because your goal is to make money, of course, I would stick with flipping singles because your return will be much faster. Like think about it for a second. Let's say you have $10,000 to work with. You could buy a sealed wax and let's say it doubles in value in 2 years, pretend, which is really good. You will actually make way more money by flipping singles and grading cards because it's a lot faster and you get a faster return on your money. Now, there's more work. So, like, if you don't have as much time to do it, I wouldn't do it. So, hopefully, that makes sense. But, like, that's the direction I would go. Like, if you're looking to make as much money as possible and you have, like, 10, 20 grand to invest, I would put it all to flipping singles. Then when you get your bankroll up to 50, 100 grand, take some of the money that you can't spend on cards and start dishing it into sealed wax. Okay? Hopefully, that makes sense. Next. So GDSAM14 says, hey, hi. What app do you use for checking comps? Amazing info on purchases. Thank you. Well, thank you for that. So I use 130point.com if it's a card that's like quick and I just want to look it up and it's a card that's worth a few $100s. If it's a card that's more expensive, I don't want to miss any comps or miss any sales because one missed sale you could lose a lot of money if you don't know what you're doing. So I use Market Movers and Only Alt to look at sales. So I kind of like cross check them. So those are the apps I use, but I only use Only Alt or 130 or Market Movers if it's something that's like above $1,000, $2,000, just so I don't miss anything. But most of the stuff I buy is usually above $1,000, so usually I'm using those. So that's what I do, and I use Market Movers to look at kind of the trends. And then I use Only Alt to look at more of the sales. But you can still see all the sales on Market Movers. So it's nice to use both, right? If you're buying something expensive. But if you're buying more of a common card, it doesn't matter if you miss a sale or two, really, because like it's a commonly card sold. It's not like you're going to screw yourself over. But with a higher end card, right, if you're not sure if you should pay $3,000 or $3,500 and the last sale was like $4,000, but then you didn't see a sale before it, which did $2,800, right? You're costing yourself potentially a lot of money. So that's how I do it. All right. Carmel Porter says, thanks for the video. I've been burned on buying a card on eBay that is not good for grading. How do you find a grade-worthy card on eBay? So I have an answer for you, and I don't know if you'll like it. It's just a skill, right? That's all. Grading cards is just a skill that you get better and better and better at, right? Just like shooting a free throw is a skill. If you've never done it, you're going to suck. Like, and grading is never perfect. So, even me, I've graded thousands of cards at this point. Even me, I buy cards on eBay that look good and they come back and they're not as good. But like, as you get better at it, more of the cards you buy will be in better condition and you'll be able to send them off for grading and they'll grade well and you'll make money. Like right now, while you buy cards, probably half of them that come back in from eBay are not in good condition. But as you gain a better eye, if you were investing in a program like mine, not saying to do it, but like that's why I tell people invest in coaching so you don't have to, so you can shorten your learning curve. Like when I buy cards, about 90% of them that I get in go off for grading. Now there's 10% that just aren't in good condition. I sell them and break even. But it's just a skill, right? Like looking at the corners, the edges, the centering, the surface, the autograph, looking at that stuff online is a skill, right? Like there's so many different little things that could be wrong with a card. And the more you do it, you train your eye and you get better and better and better at it. So like, it sounds like you're newer to sports cards and you probably just stink because you're newer, right? Like you're going to stink if you've never done it much before. That's just how it goes. Unless you pay for coaching or you go the trial and error route and keep doing it and doing it and doing it. Eventually you'll do it so much you can't suck anymore. And if you don't suck, that means you're good. So hopefully that answers your question. MCUN1NX says, you did not compare it to real estate. Come on, man. Actually, I did compare sports cards to real estate. At least the flipping aspect of real estate. So it's actually inherently similar. Think about sports cards, right? You buy a card. If it's in good condition, you send it to get graded. They assess the quality. And if the quality is good, it grades high, you make money. That's fundamentally how to make money or one of the ways to make money with sports cards. Flipping real estate is the same thing. You buy something undervalued, you fix it up so it increases in value, kind of like grading, and then you sell it and you make a profit. That's how to flip real estate. Sports cards is the same thing, except a sports card's this big and you don't have to take out a loan or mortgage or any hard money loans or anything crazy like that, which is why sports cards I think is great. And also the margins with real estate are much lower if you're flipping them, right? If you're buying a house for $100,000, right, your goal after every fees and escrow fees and loans and all that crap, right, you want to make like 30, 40 grand about, that would be solid, about 30 to 40% of your money flipping a piece of real estate. With sports cards, that's actually not that good. You want to try to, at least with me and my students, we want to try to at least double our money when you buy a card. So like, I think if you're going to flip sports cards or flip real estate, I think flipping sports cards is a much better opportunity, at least to get the ball rolling. Now, flipping real estate is it's a bigger vehicle, right? Like it's hard to flip a sports card to make $100,000. Right? That's where you go with real estate. But like to get the ball rolling and flipping stuff and making money, I think sports cards is a much better way to do it. Runner Up Silver 8921 says, do you buy cards that are not rookie year? Do you try to stay with rookies? Obviously, I know if a price is right for a card, you mainly stick with rookie cards, only cards, or no? I think I know what you're trying to say. So, think about this, okay? So the answer is rookie cards 99.9% of the time. But think about this. This is why. Let's say you buy a card for $200, okay? And it's a card of Brandon Miller. Or better example, Victor Wembanyama. You buy a card for $200, you get it graded. Now it's worth $500. It grades at 10. Think about what happens. When you go and sell a card that's already graded at 10, chances are you're selling it to somebody that is a fan of Victor Wembanyama, okay? They're an investor in him. They think he's going to play well. And people or anyone buying Victor Wembanyama for that reason wants his rookie cards, right? They want their original cards. That's why if you ever look, like you could find a card of like a Kaboom Justin Herbert, might be like 20 from 2023. That's not his rookie year. Might be like $600, not graded, and a 10 is about $1,000. So you're not even doubling your money. However, if you look back to his rookie year, you'll see his rookie cards will be like $300, and a 10, you're over doubling your money. The reason for that is because there's a much higher demand of PSA 10 Justin Herbert rookie cards rather than 2023, right? If you're an investor or a collector of Justin Herbert, do you want his rookie cards and his original cards, or do you want stuff that's a few years old, right? Most people want their original stuff, so it's higher demand, prices go up, there's a bigger margin between a 10 and raw. Hopefully that makes sense. So the answer is rookie cards, and for that reason. All-time Sports Edits 559 says, what NBA players are good buys right now? So I kind of stopped buying NBA. I mean, I bought a bunch of Wembanyama, Brandon Miller to get graded. I made some money on Ja Morant as well. Those were some of the guys I was buying. I didn't buy a ton of NBA because the NBA market's a little bit weaker. But honestly, I'm looking to start buying baseball right now. Like the NBA is kind of getting close, right? And if you've listened to my content, you know that when a season starts, you want to get rid of all those cards because most guys go down in value, right? It's just how it works. So the answer is don't buy any. There you go. That's the simple answer. But those were the ones I was buying. Yeah, I think that's all I got for you guys. And I guess I'll leave it off with one more thing. When it comes to making money with vintage cards. So I think some interesting buys right now. I was looking at market movers. And I think these are interesting buys. So a 1980, this is usually not what I talk about, but I was just looking and it's top of mind. So a 1980 Topps Carlton Fisk. One sold in the past few months for $277. And the last one did $156. Okay, I'm telling you this because these vintage cards go up over time. They go up like this. So that guy Gene, who I was explaining to, that made $5,000, who makes $5,000 a week with the sports betting arbitrage stuff, he also flips vintage cards. He's in our highest level program where we show you how to do that. And what you could do, essentially, to keep it simple, is if a card is going up like this, right, it doesn't just go up like this. It goes up like this, these vintage cards. But they usually go up over time. So what you could do is buy it when it's at its low, right? Just like that card of Carlton Fisk is at its lowest point of the year, its lowest sale. I use market movers to see this data. You try to buy one for 130, 140, a little bit below the last sale, and I bet my ass that card will jump up to $200 plus. When? I don't know. But that guy Gene just bought a Kobe collection, Ultimate Collection, something from 1996, and I have here. So he paid $160 for it because he found it at its lowest sale at its valley, and it spiked right back up for whatever reason, and he sold it for $240, just like that. That's how to make money with vintage cards. So just bringing that up because I was just looking and I just thought it's a potential interesting buy, but it's not financial advice. You could lose money with any card, so don't take it with a grain of salt. I'm just giving you my opinion. But that's all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed the new office setup. It looks just a bit more professional with everything going on behind me. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe. Leave a comment if you want me to look at the comments and answer some of them on this podcast. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll see you guys in the next one.